There's this specific dollar amount where saving money stops feeling impossible and starts feeling almost automatic. And no, it's not $1 million or even six figures. It's $10,000. And here's the weird part. Most people who hit 10K in savings will tell you the second 10K came twice as fast and the third even faster. But the first one? That first 10K feels like climbing a mountain with ankle weights. You're out here trying to save, doing everything right, cutting back on coffee, meal prepping, saying no to plans, and your savings account still looks pathetic. Meanwhile, you've got a coworker who just casually mentions they're maxing out their 401k and building a down payment fund, and you're like, how? We make basically the same salary. My name is Robert, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, financial psychology, and specifically this bizarre phenomenon where saving $1,000 feels harder than saving $10,000. Because once you understand why this happens, it changes everything about how you approach wealth building. And what I'm about to show you isn't just about the math, though the math is honestly kind of mind-blowing. It's about why your brain treats money completely differently once you cross that invisible threshold. Here's what nobody tells you when you're starting from zero or close to it. Saving your first $10,000 requires you to fight against basically everything: your psychology, your social circle, your habits, and yeah, the actual financial system itself. It's like the universe designed the game to keep you stuck at the bottom. But here's where it gets interesting. I'm going to tell you about 3 things in this video that completely reframe how saving actually works. First, there's what I call the velocity problem, and it's the reason why your savings feel like they're moving through quicksand right now. Second, there's a psychological shift that happens around the 10K mark that most people experience but can't articulate. And third, and this is the part that honestly kept me up at night when I first realized it, there's a specific mathematical reality about money that the financial industry doesn't really want you to understand too early, because if you did, you'd completely change how you think about getting started. Keep that last one in mind, because when I show you what I mean around the halfway point of this video, it's going to make you rethink every piece of financial advice you've ever heard. But let me start with a story. 3 years ago, I was having coffee with my friend Sarah, and she was venting about how she'd been trying to save for almost 2 years. She'd open her banking app, see $1,200 sitting there, feel pretty good about it for like a day, and then her car would need new tires, or her cat would need a vet visit, or she'd have to travel for a wedding, and boom, back to $300. Rinse and repeat. She wasn't being irresponsible. She was stuck in what I now call the reset loop. And the worst part? She had no idea that she was actually really close to breaking free of it entirely. So here's the obvious answer to why saving gets easier after 10K. Compound interest, right? Your money makes money, and that money makes money, and eventually you're sipping piña coladas on a beach while your investments do all the work. Except that's not actually what's happening at 10K. You know how much interest you're earning on $10,000 in a high-yield savings account right now? Maybe $400 a year. That's like $33 a month. That's not changing your life. So if compound interest isn't the reason, what is? Here's what's actually happening. When you have less than $10,000 saved, every financial emergency feels like a reset button. Your transmission fails, there goes $2,000. You need a root canal, there goes $1,500. You're living in what I call emergency mode, where your savings account isn't actually a savings account. It's an emergency fund that hasn't been tested yet. You're not saving, you're just holding money temporarily before life punches you in the face. But here's where it gets interesting. The moment you cross that invisible $10,000 threshold, something shifts. Not with the money, with you. And this connects to something I'm going to show you in a few minutes that completely reframes how saving actually works. Because what I used to think saving was, I was completely wrong. Let me tell you what I mean. Last year, I asked 50 people who had more than $25,000 saved when they remembered saving getting easier, and 43 of them said basically the same thing. Somewhere between $8,000 and $12,000, it was like a switch flipped. One guy told me, it's like I stopped thinking about saving and just became a saver. That's the hidden truth nobody talks about. The first $10,000 isn't about building a savings account. It's about building a new identity. Think about it like this. When you've got $800 in savings, you're a person who has $800. You check the balance, you feel the anxiety, you make decisions based on scarcity. But when you've got $12,000 sitting there, you become a person with $12,000. Your brain stops categorizing you as broke. And here's the weird part. Your behavior changes automatically. You know what happened to my friend Sarah after she finally broke through $10,000? She stopped buying things just in case. She had this habit of stocking up on random stuff when it was on sale. 8 bottles of shampoo because they were 40% off, backup phone chargers, an extra jacket, because subconsciously she was terrified of needing something and not having the money for it. But once she had that cushion, she just stopped. Not because someone told her to, not because she read a budgeting book, because her brain no longer felt desperate. Remember that thing I mentioned about the financial industry not wanting you to understand something too early? This is where it starts to connect. But there's still one piece missing, and it's the piece that makes everything else actually work. But here's the thing nobody talks about, and honestly, it made me kind of angry when I figured it out. The reason the first $10,000 is so hard isn't just psychology. It's that the financial system is literally designed to punish people with less money. I'm not being dramatic. Look at the actual costs of being broke. You can't afford the $40 monthly fee for a premium checking account that waives overdraft fees, so you pay $35 every time you overdraft. You can't buy the $200 high-quality boots that last 5 years, so you buy the $40 boots that fall apart in 6 months, meaning you'll spend $400 over 5 years instead of $200. You can't put enough down on a car to get a decent interest rate, so you pay an extra $3,000 in interest over the life of the loan. Being broke is expensive. Saving money actually gets cheaper the more money you have, which is insane, right? But, and this is the counterintuitive part, this is exactly why that first 10K is so powerful. Because once you have it, you exit that punishment system. You stop paying the poverty tax. I used to think the goal of saving was to have money for later, but that's wrong. The goal of saving your first 10K is to buy your way out of financial chaos. It's buying yourself room to breathe. And once you have room to breathe, everything changes. Here's a story that illustrates this perfectly. I know a guy named Marcus who spent 2 years grinding to save his first 10K. Worked overtime, did side hustles, the whole thing. Finally hit $10,000. And you know what happened 3 weeks later? His car needed a $1,200 repair. The old Marcus would have panicked, pulled the money from savings, and felt like he was back at zero. But this Marcus, he paid for the repair from his savings, felt the sting, but didn't spiral, because he looked at his account and saw $8,800, and his brain said, I'm still someone with almost $9,000 saved. I'm fine. 6 weeks later, he was back over 10K. That's the thing about crossing the threshold. Even if you dip below it, you know you can get back. You've proved it to yourself. Now, this is where everything I've been talking about comes together, because there's a mathematical reality that makes all of this possible. Here's the big reveal, the thing that finally made me understand why 10K specifically is the magic number. It's not about the interest. It's not even just about psychology. It's about velocity, your savings velocity. When you're saving your first $1,000, every dollar you save is going toward that $1,000 goal, just that goal. But when you're saving your second $10,000, when you're going from 10K to 20K, something incredible happens. You're not just saving. Your existing 10K is earning interest. You're paying fewer poverty taxes. You're making better financial decisions because you're not desperate. And all of those things stack. Let me give you the actual math because it's wild. Let's say you save $500 a month consistently. At that rate, it takes you 20 months to save your first $10,000, just over a year and a half. That's a long time. That's long enough to get discouraged, to have multiple setbacks, to wonder if you'll ever get there. But once you have that $10,000 and you keep saving $500 a month, how long does it take to get to $20,000? Not 20 months, more like 17 or 18 months. Why? Because your existing 10K is working for you, earning interest, giving you stability, preventing emergency spending. And from 20K to 30K, even faster, maybe 15 months. This is what people mean when they say the first 10K is the hardest. They're not exaggerating. It's mathematically, psychologically, and systemically the hardest. Every dollar after that gets easier, not because you're better at saving, but because you've changed the game you're playing. And here's the most actionable thing I can give you. If you're trying to save your first 10K right now, your only job, like your singular focus, is to get to $10,000 cash sitting in a boring savings account. Because that $10,000 is buying you something worth way more than $10,000. It's buying you access to a completely different financial reality. There's one last thing I need to tell you, and honestly, it's the most important part. The deeper truth about that first 10K, the thing that took me way too long to understand, is that it's not actually about the money. It's about evidence. When you're stuck at 0 or 1,500 or 3,000, you don't really believe you're capable of building wealth. You might say you believe it. You might tell yourself affirmations or watch motivational videos. But deep down, you think people who have money are different from you. They have better jobs, richer parents, more discipline, some secret you don't know. But the day you hit $10,000, money you earned, money you saved, money that's sitting right there with your name on it, that belief dies. You have evidence now. You're not theoretically capable of building wealth. You've literally done it. And once you have that evidence, your brain can't unsee it. I used to believe I was bad with money. That was my identity. I tell people that at parties like it was a personality trait. And then one day I checked my savings account and it said $10,347. And I just stared at it because the person bad with money doesn't have $10,347. That person doesn't exist. I had to update my entire self-concept. And here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of people self-sabotage right before they hit that milestone. They'll get to 8,000 or 9,000 and suddenly need to take a trip or buy something they've been putting off or loan money to someone. Because having $10,000 means admitting you're capable. And that's scarier than you think. Because if you're capable of $10,000, then you're capable of $50,000. And if you're capable of $50,000, then you're capable of $250,000. And suddenly, you're responsible for your financial future in a way you weren't before. Look, I know this is a lot to take in. And if you're sitting at 0 or 500 or $2,000 right now, 27 months probably sounds like forever. But here's what I want you to understand. You're already in the hardest part. The part where every dollar feels like a battle. The part where you can't see the finish line. The part where it would be so easy to give up. Don't. Because on the other side of that first $10,000 is a version of you that you haven't met yet. Someone who doesn't panic when the check engine light comes on. Someone who says no to things without guilt because they actually have financial priorities. Someone who checks their bank account and feels calm instead of dread. That person is closer than you think. And honestly, they're worth fighting for.